Good. So, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be called upon to stand in for the originally scheduled chairman for this session and to introduce this particular session. First of all, first reflections. Those of you that were at the networking session last evening will see that we gave a video prize to 3 crowdsourced videos. I'd like to draw your attention to the videos, have a look at them, and I think they underline something that was said earlier in this session, where Nelly Cruz says ICT and communications has something to offer to all of us. I thought the winners were truly brilliant. Some reflections on yesterday, if I can be allowed the little indulgence of going back over things. First of all, there's the sheer interest from the audience. You will recall that last year was the first year that ESF partnered with Porsche and Genset, with Elizabeth and her colleagues, to put this session together. And it has practically become a movement. It's quite an amazing level of engagement. And I look forward to playing a role in building the global dimension mentioned yesterday in the last session. I hope we can structure this Washington event to be something that really is bigger than the European impact. Some comments on yesterday. It was mentioned this morning that it's moving from a rights to a returns-based agenda, and I very much welcome this. It's now about how to stimulate societal returns, how to build innovation and dynamism, something that's so required in the Europe of today. Let me reflect some surprise at the comments from the ERC presentation yesterday, Professor Teresa Lago, where, if I understood correctly, the balance in the assessors, in the peers, is justified on the basis of the application sets. Personally, I find this not acceptable. It certainly is not in line with our own ESF guidelines on peer review and evaluation. And I would think we need to aim higher. In terms of the proposal from Professor Hans Borchegret to include the percentage of women in grade A researcher positions in the European scoreboard, just mentioned in this last session, I very much support it. If there's a problem with the statistics, let's fix them. Let's make sure that there is something in the scoreboard. I always find it refreshing to see the action-orientated inputs from our American colleagues. And Dr. Ward's session with Nancy Cantor and Professor Mary Ann Mason was really quite action-orientated. It had moved on from the analysis, and it was talking about putting empowering environments in place. Speaking of empowering environments, one of the last slides showed the increase in women in certain environments in terms of birth rates. I guess it's not a PC comment, but I think that it really is not very smart to have less than an empowering environment for women to have children from the best and the brightest that we produce in Europe. Reflecting back on ESF, our own organisation, we have produced a number of reports recently that touch on some of the issues we'll be discussing this morning. So a very recent report, Medical Researcher Education in Europe, talks about good experimental design, and I know this is something that will be touched upon this morning. We have long been a supporter of the Human Resources Strategy for Researchers, HR4S, and my personal belief is that this is a bit of a slow burn. It's going to cause structural change in time, because it has institutional quality control procedures built in. I know that one of our speakers in this first session spoke about institutional change, and I really think that this HR4S hasn't perhaps got the highlight it deserves in terms of impact.